Hello friends, welcome back to the Exploring Eyes and today we are going to talk about a very special topic. बहुत लोगों ने हमसे पूछा और जब हमने पोस्ट किया था कि we did complete part of Masai Mara, two of us within 75,000 per person. So a lot of people wanted to ask हमने कैसे किया, how did we do it? So this video is all about the budget and how you can plan a trip to Masai Mara. Now to all of us, Masai Mara, we know it's one of the prime game safari in the world and it's in Kenya. If you have seen Discovery or Nat Geo when you were growing up, so you have seen it for sure, and most of the shots of cheetah chasing a deer or lion having the meal, there are many of those scenes come in front of you the moment we talk about Masai Mara. So yes, it was also a bucket list tour for us, and not only for me, for my dad also. So me and my dad planned a trip to Masai Mara this year, this 2024 June. Why June? How we did it? We'll cover everything in this video. So stay tuned till the end. We hope that we cover all the doubts you have and how you can plan. Before starting the video, let me give you the brief on how we want to go step by step. So the first point, we are going to talk about our itinerary, what we did and what few things to keep in mind when we are going to explain this video. The second part, we are going to talk about what is the best time to visit Masai Mara. Then we are going to talk about what are the costs you need to consider for Masai Mara, what are the buckets of cost, and then we will give you few key parameters that you need to adjust to keep your expense low in Masai Mara. And finally, we will give you the cost breakup of how much we spent where and what is the total cost. If you want to choose a different itinerary, how much that can cost and stuff like that. And if you want to do even lesser, at the end of the video, we will tell you you can do it even lesser than what we spent. It's going to be a very informational video and going to be very useful. I hope very useful for you. So without further ado, let's get started. So first thing first, when you go to Masai Mara, there are a huge range of options possible. आपके पास बहुत सारे options है. You can stay within the game drive, you can stay in a luxury camp, semi-luxury camp, budget camp. There are multiple of options. Most of the tours, or if you talk to people, you spend something around 1.5 to 1 lakh just to do Masai Mara. But we thought of doing this on a budget. So few things first, if you are planning to stay within Masai Mara, or if you want to be your trip to be a luxurious one, then this video is not for you. But if you are planning to take Masai Mara and delaying it just because of budget, then we can say you can do it and you can follow this video along. So you know what we have done, and when we say we did it within 75k per person, you know what exactly is included. So we had a 5-day tour. So day one, we start from Bangalore. It was an early morning flight of Air India, Bangalore to Delhi, Delhi to Nairobi, and we reached Nairobi around 5:30 in the evening, and that's about it. We got picked up from our tour safari. I'll give you the name of our tour safari. We got picked up from the airport. We stayed in an Airbnb in Nairobi. It's basically between Nairobi city to Nairobi airport. It's a good 10-15 kilometer stretch. I'm not sure of the exact distance, but this Airbnb is exactly in between the Nairobi main city and the airport. It's a lovely Airbnb. We stayed in that Airbnb for that night. The next day, we got picked up from our tour guides. We went to Masai Mara. We went and we checked into our camp and we stayed there in that camp. Evening, we went for a Masai game village experience, have a lovely time among the Masai people. And then next 2 full days, basically day 3 and day 4 was completely on Mara. So we had 2 full days of Mara, and then on 5th day we came back to Nairobi, and on 6th morning or 6th evening we have a flight. So we have 5 nights, 3 nights in Masai Mara, 2 nights in Nairobi. I know there are many other places in Kenya you wanted to do, like Lake Nakuru, Lake Navisha, Amboseli. We all love it, but this trip was primarily for Masai Mara. And if you want to do Masai Mara, the iconic Mara, keeping it or delaying it for budget, then without making it more complicated, you can just do like an in and out tour we did, and you can just stick Masai Mara and you will have an amazing experience. Mara by far the best game reserve in Kenya, without taking anything away from Amboseli, Lake Nakuru, Navisha. They are beautiful in their own way, but Masai Mara is Masai Mara. So we didn't want to delay it further. We thought this is the budget, this much we can do, and let's do it. So that's number one. That's about our itinerary. The second important factor that comes into play is when to go to Masai Mara. Now we went in June second half. Now let me divide the part. So from July to October is basically the peak season or the best season in Mara, when the migration happens. So if you don't know migration, there is a huge bunch of wild beasts and zebras cross from Serengeti to Mara through Mara river. So this side is Serengeti, this side is Mara, and in between there is Mara river, and it's not an easy crossing. There are a bunch of hippos or bunch of crocodiles waiting to feast on them, so it's a very challenging and navigating. A lot of wild beasts and zebras lost their lives in the whole process. So but it's a sight to watch. It's one of those greatest events on earth, kind of a thing. So that's the season from July to October. November to December is basically a little low season or a shoulder season. And Jan Feb is also kind of similar. March to May or first half of June typically is the rainy season, so we request you to avoid this time, March to June, because if it rains, the complete landscape flooded, and then you have no option just to cancel your tour. So don't choose between March to June. The ideal window is either July to October or Jan Feb or June second half. Now what is the difference? The July to December is basically the peak time in Masai Mara, and your charge is $200 per person per day for 12 hours. So no matter you spend 1 hour, 2 hours in Masai Mara, you have to spend that $200 per person per day, and not 24 hours, it's 12 hours. So if you start morning 6, you get out evening 6, it's 12 hours. Or even if you enter in the afternoon 3 and come out afternoon 6, it's still $200. So it's an entry fee. So that's the entry fee from July to December. That's why January, February is a very good month, or June second half like we went. January to June is basically $100. The $200 is $100 per person per day for 12 hours. And that is why we chose June is the month. We gave up on the chance of seeing wildebeest migration or the great migration they say, but if you want to do migration, then obviously it's an amazing experience, you should do it. But then again, this budget will not work that time because the entry fee is itself doubled. So this is the timing factor of Mara. The flight basically costs something around 26 to 30,000 round trip. Indigo flights, so when we were checking, and we booked this flight 2 months or 1.5 months in advance, we are checking Indigo flight. The Indigo flights from Bangalore goes to Mumbai and then to Nairobi. So basically what we understood is, obviously there are many flights, but if you talk about the cheaper options, there are two, only Indigo and Air India. Air India goes to Nairobi from Delhi, Indigo goes to Nairobi from Mumbai. So if you take an Indigo flight from anywhere in the country, they will take you to Mumbai and from there to Nairobi. And if you take Air India flight to Nairobi, it will take you from anywhere in the country to Delhi and from there to Nairobi. So we took Air India from Bangalore to Delhi, and it costed us around 26,000 as a round trip. 26,500 or 600 as a round trip. We got a good deal, but again, if you go avoid that July to October kind of a window and try at least 2.5 months in advance, or keep tracking that price, I'm pretty confident you will get within 27,000 the return trip in Air India. Indigo same flight was costing something around 33,000, not a huge difference, but this is the normal price. And if you want to fly Kenya Airways or Etihad or Emirates, then the cost shoots up. So that's about the flight. The second part, and a very important part, the visa. Now Kenya visa, let me tell you, it's not free. A lot of travel influencers we have seen kind of showcasing that Kenya is now visa free. Kenya is not visa free. Kenya needs an ETA or electronic travel agreement. You can call it visa, you can call it anything, but you still need that permit, and that permit is not free. This is a complete online process. You can get it within 48 hours. It's an absolutely straightforward process, and in the next video we will show you how you can do it, and I will completely show you on the screen how to do about it. That video is coming next, but this is not free. You have to pay around $35 including of all the charges and everything. For the visa, $35 per person that you have to pay. Okay, so that's the visa process, and also you need to get your yellow fever and polio vaccination done. Now if you are in Bangalore, we have put up a video, I'll add it into the I button. You can see it how you can get the yellow fever and polio vaccination from Bangalore. but if you are anywhere in the country, you can possibly check out within your state or city where the yellow fever and polio vaccination is given. It's very common. You can find out from any government hospital. So that's about the mandatory things that you need to do visa. And obviously there is an insurance that's not mandatory, but it's recommended you buy that insurance. So insurance costed us around 2,000 rupees. And for my dad, it's a bit more because his age is more than 60. So what we covered till now is best time to visit Kenya, flight and visa. So all the pre-works are done. Now comes the most important part, and before going most important part, I'll just cover what are the other additional costs. You have to factor in 2 nights in Nairobi, and we stayed in an Airbnb. Can't recommend it more. It has its own small kitchen, 1 bedroom kind of a setup, 1 hall. The host was amazing. The Airbnb costed us something around 1300-1400. I'll give you the entire cost with breakups toward the end, so the exact figure. One important cost for Kenya is the water. Now I'm not sure about the luxury camps, or basically which are inside the game drive, or basically where you a semi-luxury kind of a camp. But since we were in a budget camp and in that Airbnb, drinking water you have to buy. Now you can buy a big 5-liter jar or a small 1-liter, 1.5-liter bottle, but it makes sense to buy a 5-liter jar if you are there for 4 or 5 days. We bought it from every grocery store. You get that, so that's something that you need to factor in for. There is another cost on transportation within Nairobi. Like for our case, we were picked up from the airport, otherwise you have to pay. Uber is a very common ride sharing app, so you can book Uber easily. And then obviously the other thing is your tips. So when you are doing a game drive, you have to pay some tips to the person that taking you, or if you like that service, they don't ask you specifically, but you have to pay for it. It's good if you like the service, you pay them. Again, there is no such thumb rule of how much to pay. I can tell you what we paid towards the end when I go through the list of spendings. The other thing that you need to pay for is a Masai village. So this is an optional activity. You can choose it. You may want to avoid it. It's perfectly fine. But if you're going, it's basically $15 or somewhere they take $20 per person. It's a good experience. So if you want to see that, how they live, what their house looks like, and some time with that local community, you should by all means do it. And this money goes primarily to their kids' schooling and stuff, so it's a good money spent. Apart from that, you may need to spend some money for shopping if you are trying to do some shoppings and stuff. And one more important thing that you need to keep in mind is basically the SIM. So while coming out from the airport, we got our SIM card. So we got it from Safaricom. It's basically one of the most trusted one in entire Kenya. You see huge advertisements all across the city and in Masai Mara. And when we were deep inside Mara also, we got Safaricom's tower very easily. So you can get it right when you are coming out of the airport. Just before the exit gate, there is a shop of Safaricom. You can get it. It costed around $11-12 for 7 days, unlimited social media scrolling, and then around 8 to 10 GB of data. So it's enough for 5 days kind of a tour that we were talking about. And in the camp, we anyway had Wi-Fi in the common room, not in our tents. Again, we stayed in a budget camp. So that's all. You have to spend the other things that you need to consider apart from the safari. So now coming to the most important part of choosing the safari. Now we went with Baboon Budget Safari. We saw our friends from the Backpacksters. They went this year in February and they recommended us, and when we spoke to them, they seemed genuine and they were very helpful for us to plan the entire trip. We had a multiple round of conversations, but then we finally decided on this itinerary. So you can go ahead with them. I'll give their contact person WhatsApp number in the description box. You can follow. So Baboon Budget Safari, they are the aggregator, so they can give you the plan for entire Kenya. We wanted to pick only Masai Mara, so that's why they gave for only Masai Mara. For Masai Mara, how your safari cost decides. So there are 4 factors. Let me tell you. Number 1 is basically where you want to stay. Do you want to stay inside the Mara or outside the Mara? Obviously inside the Mara the cost is higher. It's basically, we stayed outside the Mara, and this camp that we stayed in is basically 5 minutes outside the gate of Mara. So it's very easy to go and reach the gate. Don't recommend you to stay very far from the gate of Mara, so that morning you want to enter as early as possible. So around by 6:37 you should be inside the park. Early morning light is amazing, so if you don't want to miss that, and a lot of action happens also in the morning, so you can actually be lucky seeing a cheetah or a lion chasing or having a meal. so that's why morning is very critical. So obviously the camp choice is very important. If you stay inside, the experience is supreme. Obviously you are inside the park and can't compare with this with staying in outside the park, but obviously you pay a bit more, quite a bit more for that, but again you can spend more time into the park, you can leave late, come back to the hotel late and stuff like that. So there are pros to it, but again not when you are going on a budget. Choice of your stay is very important. Then within stay also there are multiple options, so we chose the budget option, and on top of the budget you have the semi-luxury and then you have the luxury. So semi-luxury, so we stayed in Miti Ming Eco Camp. There is also an option of semi-luxury which is Jumbo Mara that Baboon was offering, but there are more than that semi-luxury, not only Jumbo Mara, but Jumbo Mara is one of the famous semi-luxury which is possibly just inside the gate of Mara, and they have a pool and stuff like that, but also there are more costlier options also available. So Baboon can customize this for you, but they are specialized in the budget safaris, so that stay is a very important option. And we stayed in Miti Ming Eco Camp. It was very comfortable. We have a tent where we have complete ziplock, so it's secured. It has a locker. There is a small balcony outside the tent where you can put up the chair and sit, and within the tent we have hot water. We have electricity again, not in the daytime because you don't anyway want to stay there in the tent, so evening 6 to 10 the electricity was there. The most importantly, there was one charging point enough for getting your mobile and camera charged, and the bed was very comfortable. The food is in the hall. You have to come from the tent, and one Masai always guides you. Even if it is outside the park in the night, they always guides you and get you back from after your dinner. Food is very comfortable. You don't expect an Indian kind of a meal. You get rice, normal chapati, sometimes some cabbage or some frams, some mutton also they give quite a few times. So you get a good spread and fruits as well. So with all that you get it, and it's pretty decent. It was very comfortable. We slept very well and don't have any complaint against the camp. Second most important factor is what tour you are choosing. So are you choosing a group tour versus a private tour? Now a group tour obviously is cheaper, but a private tour gives you much more autonomy. For example, like us, we wanted to do a group tour, but we had 2 full days. Now understand, most of the tours that come from Nairobi is 2 night 3 day kind of a tour. So the day you are reaching from Nairobi to Mara, it's a 6-hour drive. The day you reach Mara, they take you to an evening safari, and then the next day they give you a full safari, and the third day you are going back. But we didn't want to spend that $200 per person and just for 3 hours in the afternoon. The day we were reaching and they were taking us to the game drive, we didn't want to spend that money for $100 for 3 hours. We said we don't want to do that safari, let us skip that, give us one more day. So basically instead of 2 night 3 days, give us 3 night 4 days, so that when we am paying that $100, I'm actually spending 12 hours into the park. That's how we optimized. But the challenge here is, since most of the tours are 2 night 3 day kind of a tour, the full day they takes you to a designated spot. So they take you to the Mara River, they take you to the Kenya-Tanzania border, and places like that. If you are going again on a second full day group tour, they also take you to the same route. Very luckily for us, on the second day we did not get any other tour who can accommodate us, because the guys we came with, they already left for Nairobi because they came for 2 night 3 day tour. Because we stayed back, we were supposed to tag along with another group. That was going to be the first day for that group whom we were supposed to tag with, but there was no place in any of that group. So we got a private tour, and that's the best day. We went completely in the other side. We saw cheetah carrying a kill, lion sleeping, a leopard having meal on top of a tree, a cheetah resting under a bush, and we were only us in that and the cheetah. There was no other car in the side, and it was a surreal feeling, and we had the best day completely. We had lunch under a tree in the Mara. So second day was by far the best, but we were a bit lucky that we got a private tour because there was no group tour available. But otherwise it would have been the same route that we have taken on the day before. That's the only negative part I will say in this. If you have 4 or 5 people in a group, by all means go with a private safari. The cost gets divided. Since we were 2, private safari was costing us quite a lot, so we had to choose group tour. So group tour versus private tour is another factor. So like stay is a factor, group tour versus private tour is a factor. The third important factor is the choice of a vehicle. Now there are two type of vehicle that goes inside Mara. One is the van, another is a Land Cruiser. Now here I will say you choose a better option and choose a Land Cruiser, because van 10 to 12 hours becomes a bit claustrophobic, and it's not all the sections of the park a van can go very easily. Obviously there are ups and downs, there are tricky sections, but a Land Cruiser, the experience is amazing. So you pay that extra and choose a Land Cruiser. But if you're absolutely tight on a budget, you can choose a van. We chose a Land Cruiser, so we chose the stay outside, group tour and the Land Cruiser combination. If you have a bit more money, if you are absolutely on budget, you want to spend lesser than what we spent, then you choose the stay outside, budget camp, group tour and a van option. If you want to spend like we did, you can choose stay outside, budget camp, group tour and a Land Cruiser. If you want to spend a bit more, I will say stay outside, take a private tour, budget camp and a Land Cruiser, and then you can optimize. If you want to spend more, you can obviously stay inside and get that luxury feel. Obviously it's much more enjoyable that way. That is basically all about it. So you have to optimize around these 3-4 factors. Now let me come to the last section on how much we have spent in all of this. We spend around 26,000 per person on the flight. The safari costed us around 900 USD for 2 people, so it's 450 USD for 3 nights 4 days. They were costing 375 USD per person for 2 nights 3 days, 450 USD for 3 nights 4 days. Now understand here, we did not pay extra for entry to Mara because we did not pay the day we reached, but we paid one of the full day instead of that. So entry wise we have not paid extra, but it's the commute, it's the stay, it's the food that costed us $75 more. So that's why 375 become 450, but we spent that money because we wanted 2 full days of game drive in the Mara. So $450 per person is the safari cost, and that includes from Nairobi pickup to Nairobi drop, everything included. We stayed in Nairobi for 2 nights, which costed us around 3,000, like I was saying, 1,500 rupees one night. We spent around 350 rupees per person on food and water. So we bought some groceries for the 2 nights we were in Nairobi, and we bought water that sustaining us for the 5 days. So 350 per person, you can think. For visa, like I said, we spent around $70, which is something around 5,800 rupees. For the Masai village, we paid $15 per person. So it's again around 1250, 1300 rupees that we paid per person. SIM card, we paid 1100 rupees, but we got 1 SIM card. So even if you are 2, you can take 1 SIM card. We got 12 GB data for 7 days and unlimited social media scrolling from Safaricom. Transport within Nairobi and airport. So the day we reached, we got a pickup from Baboon Budget Safari, and they drop us in our stay in Nairobi. But while we are coming back, because our tour ended the day before and our flight was the next day. If your flight is on the same day the tour is ending, these guys only can drop you at the airport, but we got dropped into the same Airbnb we were staying before going to Nairobi. We were staying there, so they drop us there. So the last day from Nairobi to airport, and we spent some 4-5 hours within the Nairobi city. So that commute in Uber, that costed us around 1,500 rupees in total. Shopping we did for almost 4,000 rupees. You can keep 4,000 to 4,500 rupees for shopping. 2 days we keep for 1,300 rupees. So basically we paid around 2,000 Kenyan shilling. Then finally we had paid around 1680, 800, 900 per person insurance. I think that's about it. So all together, we 2 of us spend around 1,50,000 rupees, and per person you can think it's coming as around 75,000. Very important factor, we got the flight ticket around 26,000, and we were able to book that budget camp outside the Mara gate, group safari and a Land Cruiser combination that worked for us. If you can accommodate these two, rest are manageable, you can very well do within 75,000. And obviously you can't go within the peak season and you can't see wild beast migration. That's the caveat. Now if you want to do less, you can actually choose 2 nights 3 days, and that's where you spend another $150 for 2 people, or basically $75 per person, which is easily around 6,000 per person you can save by not staying that 1 extra day that we stayed. Because we are going to only Masai Mara, we wanted to optimize that, so you can reduce 6,000 rupees straight away. So that's the whole package of Masai Mara. Hope you enjoyed it. This is going to help you in planning your trip quite well. And let us know in the comments if you have any questions. You have our mail ID, you can shoot any questions or reach out to on Instagram if you need any help in planning. So that's the overall summary. It's a bit long video, but hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. See you in the next video. Bye.